Okay, so we all think we know Albert Einstein, right? The hair, the equation, but the story of what happened after he died, it's way, way stranger than you could ever imagine. Let's get into it.
So, the story starts on April 18th, 1955. Einstein passes away from an aneurysm at 76. And look, before he died, he was crystal clear about what he wanted. No big deal, no fuss, and definitely no shrines.
And you know what? For the most part, his wish was granted. His family had a private ceremony, his ashes were scattered secretly. End of story, right? Not even close. Because without anyone knowing, during his autopsy, one crucial part of him was left behind. And that's where this totally bizarre, decades-long saga really begins.
So, let's talk about that journey, because honestly, it is one of the strangest stories in the history of science.
Okay, get this. The pathologist on duty, a guy named Thomas Harvey, literally steals Einstein's brain during the autopsy. I mean, completely without permission from the family. He was hoping he could figure out the secret to genius. Now, he lost his job for it, obviously, but he kept the brain. He cut it into 240 blocks, stuck them in jars, and for decades it was just hiding in a cider box under a beer cooler. He even drove it across the country in the trunk of his car. You just can't make this stuff up.
So what on earth would make someone do that? What was so special about this one brain that it inspired this obsession? To get that, we've got to rewind the clock.
And we're going to rewind all the way back to one single incredible year, 1905.
So picture this. It's 1905. Einstein is just 26 years old, working a pretty boring job at a patent office in Switzerland. And from that desk, in his spare time, he publishes four papers that would completely turn the world of physics on its head. Forever.
They call it his annus mirabilis, his miracle year. I mean, think about it. In 1 year, he figures out that light can act like a particle. He proves atoms are real by looking at how dust moves in water. He completely rewrites our understanding of space and time. Oh, and as a little cherry on top, he drops the most famous equation in the world, E equals mc squared.
Let's take that first one. For more than 100 years, everyone knew light was a wave. That was just a fact. Einstein comes along and says, well, yes, but it's also a stream of tiny little energy bullets. We call them photons now. And that idea, it basically kicked off the entire field of quantum theory.
And here's the really wild part. You'd think he won the Nobel Prize for relativity, right? Nope. It was actually for this idea, the photoelectric effect. And the irony is just incredible, because it's a cornerstone of quantum mechanics, a theory he would end up fighting against for the rest of his life.
But okay, let's talk about the big one. His most famous work didn't just challenge an idea, it challenged a 200-year-old view of the entire universe.
This is such a great way to see the difference. For centuries, we all just went with Newton's idea. Gravity is this mysterious, invisible force that just pulls stuff. But Einstein had this incredible vision. He said, what if space and time are actually woven together into one thing, space-time? And it's like a giant cosmic trampoline. You put something heavy on it, like the sun, and it creates a huge dip. Planets, like Earth, aren't being pulled. They're just rolling around the edge of that curve. Mind-blowing, right?
And look, this isn't just some weird, abstract thought experiment. It has real-world consequences we use every single day. Take your phone's GPS. The satellites orbiting Earth experience time just a tiny bit faster than we do down here. If they didn't adjust for that using Einstein's equations, your GPS would be off by miles within a single day. So yeah, you can thank general relativity for not getting lost on your way to dinner. But for all his genius, there was one thing he just could not accept: the randomness of quantum mechanics. He famously said, God does not play dice. He had these legendary debates with Niels Bohr about it, but in the end, the experiments proved him wrong. It seems the universe, on its tiniest scales, really does love a game of chance. And you know, this complexity wasn't just in his science. When you look beyond the physics at his personal life, you see a man who was full of really deep and sometimes really conflicting beliefs.
On one hand, he was this incredible champion for justice. He fled Nazi Germany and then used his fame to fight racism here in America. He publicly called it a disease of white people. He even befriended the amazing singer Marian Anderson and hosted her in his own home when a hotel refused to because she was black. A true advocate.
And yet, there's another side. Decades after he died, his private travel diaries from the 1920s were published, and they showed,
Well, they showed he made some pretty derogatory and prejudiced comments about people he met, the very same kind of views he would later fight against so publicly. It's a tough thing to square, but it's a powerful reminder that even a genius can be deeply, complicatedly human.
And that complexity really hit home in his family life, something that often gets lost behind the myth of the solitary genius.
He and his first wife, Mileva Maric, had 3 children. The first, a daughter named Lieserl, was a total secret until the 1980s. We think she probably died as a baby. His son Hans Albert did really well, became a professor of engineering. But his youngest son, Eduard, well, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia as a young man and spent most of his life in an institution. He can only imagine the heartbreak that caused Einstein.
And when his own end came, he faced it with that same kind of philosophical calm. He knew his aneurysm had ruptured, and the doctors offered surgery. He turned it down. He said, "It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I will do it with elegance." He chose to go on his own terms.
So, that brings us back to the brain, right? The one that went on that crazy 40-year road trip. What did we actually learn from it? Well, after all that time, scientists did get to study it, and they found some weird things. An unusual number of certain cells that support the neurons, a higher density of neurons in some spots, even an extra fold in his frontal lobe. But does any of that actually explain his genius? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. The debate is still wide open. But if you're curious, you can actually go see 46 slides of his brain today at a museum in Philadelphia.
So you have this life that literally changed the universe, and this brain, scattered in jars across the country. What's the real takeaway here? I think that bizarre story of his brain is the perfect reminder. It shows us that behind the icon, behind the hair and the famous equations, there was just a man. A brilliant, complicated, flawed, and deeply human person. And his real legacy, it isn't a few slides in a museum. It's in the stars, in the fabric of space-time, and in the whole new universe he gave us a chance to understand.